Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaskar. I welcome you all to the episode 2 of the conversation Dharma versus Religion with Dr. Sanjay Dikshit. In this episode, we'll discuss the concept of logic in the two differing systems of Dharma on one side and religion on the other. And we'll also discuss some epistemological problems. In your article, Sanjay ji, welcome once again. In your
Thank you. Thank you.
in your article, you first of all you mentioned binary logic system, and then juxtapose it with a lot of other systems which are prevalent in dharmic society. So first of all, would you like to throw some light on what is exactly binary logic system? Because only then we'll be able to understand what is multiple valued logic systems, other logic systems.
Okay. Binary basically means two. So binary logic, when we say binary logic, first of all, we have to understand what is logic. Logic is on the base of which we gain knowledge. So that is the means to knowledge, the logic, or the parameters on which we predicate our knowledge or knowledge systems. So binary logic systems are those in which there are just two values, and those two values are yes or no, or right or wrong, or let's say
Wrong.
right and wrong. So let's take an example on this. Let's say we say that I am going east. This is a very simple system, very simple statement. And so either you are going east or you're not going east. That is a binary way to look at it. That is a two value. Going east, not going east. There's no question of right or wrong here, but just two values: going east, not going east. Okay, and then there is another way of looking at it. He is going east, he is not going west, he is not going south, he is not going north. He is going east, he is also going southeast, northeast. Maybe he is also going southeast. When you say he is going east, then these two possibilities have not been excluded. So when you look at all these possibilities and you started looking at it this way, then that becomes multi-valued. A very simplistic way of stating this. This is a very, very simplistic way of saying that.
Yes.
And
so after yes, please.
yes.
You were,
So what happens in the Abrahamic systems? There are only two ways of looking at a problem. So if there is, suppose you state an X position, X or Y, and you say, for instance, you say the sun rises in the east. Now the sun rises in the east this is to be examined vis-a-vis what is written in the book. Because again, epistemology is related to this. Whatever is written in the book is true. So if it is written in the book that the sun rises in the east, then it is true. Otherwise, it is wrong. Just two values, right and wrong, true or false. Again, let's take another example, which is very common. The earth is round or flat?
Yes.
The earth, by your observation,
Yeah.
is round. But in the Abrahamic system, if it is written that the earth is flat, then the earth has to be flat. There is no third option given to you. It cannot be said that I don't know. Maybe is not an option. If it is written there that the earth is flat, then earth is flat. The earth cannot be round, and there is no maybe option either. Now that maybe option, it exists in all index systems. that it is possible, but okay, you don't know that whether the earth is round or it is flat, or I don't know. All three options are possible. And in fact, there is a full proof given that the ternary system is better than the binary system. This is Dr.
Okay.
Subhash Kak's proof, which I have shared on a number of occasions. And another proof which is very often utilized in all our system is called the Chatushkoti system. This is a four-valued system. And the four-valued system is that, okay, yes, or rather, let's say, what they call false, then neither true nor false, and both true and false, and finally, true. So these four possibilities exist. And that is why you see in all our systems, in all our conversations, in all our cultural wisdom, how people react, how people say things, how people internalize things, they internalize it through this three-valued or four-valued logic only. Like I often give this example, and I've given this example a number of times. Somebody said that, okay, let's look at a phenomenon called theft. Now, if you look at Bible, then theft is sin. As simple as that. There is no other option.
Yes.
Theft is sin. But if you examine this in the Indian system, then you look at Krishna Leela. And what would you call the Makhan Chor? If a Makhan Chor is to be examined from the Western point of view, if you look at him with Western lens, then you'd say that this man is a sinner. And this is how the Western Indologies, they look at our scriptures. When they go and start examining the tales that are narrated in Mahabharata or Ramayana, this is how they try and look at it. They look at it from the point of view of the Western two-valued system, the binary system. Theft is bad. Oh, this man, he was a habitual thief. He was stealing makhan from everybody. So how can he be a god? All these
Context is very important in Sanatana.
Context is, in fact, there is no text without a context.
Yes.
The fundamental thing is that there is no text without a context. You cannot examine any text without a context. So that is why even if you look at Mahabharata, it's a very simple example I give you. If you look at that Shanti Parv story about a mongoose, Nevle ki kahani, that tale of a mongoose, where that mongoose comes and Yudhishthira has just finished his Rajasuya Yagya and he's ready to become a Chakravarti Samrat. And he's giving great alms, he's distributing Dan and Dakshina, is giving to everybody. And a mongoose turns up there and he goes around and he kind of rolls in the grain that is lying there. And that mongoose is a special mongoose, is very big, and one side is all golden and the other side is normal. And he rolls around in the grain and then he laughs. He laughs aloud like a living person. And then everybody goes to him and says that, okay, what has happened? Why are you saying like this? You must be some great Atma, you must be some great soul, and that you have this form of a mongoose. You tell us. He said, no, there is no great merit in this dan that Yudhishthira is doing. And then he narrates the story that how one poor Brahmin, he donated some little bit of grain, and that he rolled in that grain and his half portion became gold. But this huge amount of dan and dakshina being given by Yudhishthira doesn't have that merit that man had given. Context was important. The context of that Brahmin, that poor Brahmin giving, was that he gave up whatever he had. Whereas what Yudhishthira was giving. So context is very important. That is why those 4 values, in fact, those 4 values are also defined, in the Chatushkoti. They're beautifully defined. They say that you start with mithya. Then the next value, that is called neither true nor false, is the stage of what is called sanshay. And then the next stage, which you call both true and false, that is known as shraddha. And then when you move to the next one, that is the satya. So it is a full journey from falsehood to truth is a journey, and it is not a certainty. Unlike in the Abrahamic religion, whether they have 2 values or they are dead certain. They're dead certain because they are dogmas.
Yeah.
As I explained in the first episode, that there is no scientific methodology. So when there is no scientific methodology, there is no seeking, there is only believing, then what you get is dogma. So in that dogma, there is no journey. It's either this or that.
Or
It's
that.
either this or that. So that doesn't happen. In fact, in Ramcharitmanas, there's a beautiful shlok. In fact, Balkand, it starts, no? It's, the second shlok of Balkand by Tulsidas ji. Bhavani Shankaro Vande Shraddha Vishwasa Rupino. Please try and understand. Bhavani Shankaro Vande, Parvati ji and Shankar Bhagwan. Shankar Bhagwan, you know that he is the universe. So Bhavani Shankaro Vande Shraddha Vishwasa Rupino. Shraddha first. So you have to go through Shraddha to Vishwas. Vishwas is Satya. That is the truth. So if you have to go to truth, then you have to travel through Shraddha. So Bhavani Shankaro Vande Shraddha Vishwasa Rupino Yabhyam Vina Na Pashyanti. Without whom you cannot see. Siddha Yabhyam Vina Na Pashyanti Siddha. Siddha Purush. Those who are high up in sadhana, even they cannot see. Yabhyam Vina Na Pashyanti Siddha Swantah Sthamishwaram. Swantah Stham Ishwaram. The Ishwar that is within, you can see only if you go through Bhavani, the form of Bhavani as Shraddha, to Shankar as Vishwas. See, it is so beautifully internalized. I get goosebumps when I chant this shloka again and again. It is so beautifully internalized in our systems. But to the Westerner, it is unintelligible. It is unintelligible because he is not schooled in this logic. For him, everything is dead certain. So when everything is dead certain, even if he looks at science also, that all the science that is being taught these days is also dogma because it is being taught on the basis of authority. You do only some kind of perfunctory experiments in your labs. Otherwise, because somebody said that, okay, this was a great scientist and he's done this, then this is like this. And somebody's done this, then this is like this. I mean, even today, people are learning the mechanistic universe model of Descartes and Newton. And the children are simply mugging it up and they think that the time theory of Newton is the last theory. And I think about 99% of people who have done science still tend to think that. Why? Because science is being taught as dogma. Who knows about the theory of relativity or quantum mechanics and how they have completely falsified that notion of time which was given by Descartes and Newton? Who knows that the mechanistic universe theory that was popularized by Descartes and Newton has completely been debunked? And who knows that individual rights theory is actually an adjunct of the mechanistic universe theory? And that the social scientists, they took it from Descartes and Newton and used it in social theories to build this, what is called the individual rights theory,
Okay.
and the individual-based state.
That's very interesting.
But for 100 years, the mechanistic universe theory is dead. More than 100 years, ever since the special theory of relativity was first propounded.
Yes, okay.
Later on, of course, this got into even higher, and general theory of relativity came, and after that, quantum mechanics came. That completely falsified the individual rights theory. Because what is quantum mechanics? Quantum mechanics is superposition of improbability amplitudes. So that suggests some kind of a cooperative dynamic system of universe. But the social scientists have not adopted. In fact, they have continued with their Marxist, postmodernist, cultural Marxist, all that kind of a dogma. So you still read Gramsci and Derrida in the name of social justice theories. They have been completely debunked by development in science. Why does this happen? That is because the logic in Western social sciences is still too valued. It has no value for the multi-valued logic that now pervades the entire science, and it has pervaded the Indian systems always. There's never been an occasion in any of the systems. In fact, Buddhists are the greatest exponents of four-valued logics. And the Jain theory is actually, that goes to another extreme. It's such an extreme that it becomes impractical, and that is seven-valued.
Yeah. Why do you call it extreme and impractical? Why do you call it extreme and impractical? If 4 is correct, then why not 7? Why not have more degrees?
Again, I said 7 means that you are always in sunshine. You can never reach a conclusion.
Yeah.
It is always not this, not this, not this, not this. So it makes the physical existence or normal human existence almost impossible. That is why I say that it is another extreme. Whereas the three-valued and four-valued, three-valued, of course, is scientifically proven to be the optimum. The three-valued theory, and there is this mathematical proof of three-valued the three-valued logic. The ternary system is the optimum and the best, and much better than binary. There is a mathematical proof for that. So if you do not want anything else, at least honor the mathematical proof. That is my take as far as the logic is concerned. And that is why I say that this is my assertion. So people can come and challenge me on this, and I am open to be falsified. That all social science, all Western social science, all Western historiography is all junk, because it is based on two-valued logic. It's complete junk. It is not worth the weight of the paper it is written in. It is
would you include all historians? Yeah. Would you include all historians, sociologists, anthropologists also in this?
Yes, why not? Look at the psychologists, the Western psychologists. What have they done? In any case, most of it is not really based on objective proofs. The Western historiography is, even Western mathematics, look at the Western mathematics, even that is based on axioms. If you look at the C.K. Raju's critique or Jonathan Crabtree's critique of Western mathematics, it's all based on axioms. It is not inductive reasoning based on objective proofs or direct evidence. They make certain assumptions, they make that into axioms, and on that basis of axioms, they do deductive reasoning, and then somehow try and privilege deductive reasoning over inductive reasoning. How can you privilege deductive reasoning over inductive reasoning? If you're going by the 5 senses that you have, then the empirical evidence has to be higher. And you privilege deductive evidence over empirical evidence. I do not think there is anything more sinister than that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, like you said, you beautifully described the binary system and other systems of logic in India. I would just like to add one more example, because you have said that the logic system reflect on the societies, on the cultures that they create, that they build. There is a very famous incident in the history of fatwas, that in Iraq or in Baghdad, once a debate arose between different sects of Maulvis, that how many teeth does a horse have? And so the committee sat, and they discussed for days and weeks and months, and after 1 year or so they created thesis of thousands of pages. But then a young boy of 12 years old, he suggested that why not just go to the horse and count how many teeth does he have? And then he was shut down, right? This is not not like that it is done. We have to sit down and refer to all the hadiths and how it has been said. So it is one extreme. It almost serves as an extreme of how far this logic system can go. So yes, now
I'll give you another example. Francis Bacon's
Yeah.
proof 1 + 1 = 2. It runs into more than 300 pages. Why don't you just go and count it?
Yeah. It does.
In Principia Mathematica.
Yeah.
And it is privileged over the normal proof that you can just count 1 + 1 = 2 by saying it is deductive reasoning. It is superior.
Yes.
What kind of
Yes.
superiority is that? Superiority of stupidity. So that is one fine example. Another example I'll give you. You gave the horse example. I'll give you another example. The founder of the Barelvi sect, Ahmad Raza Barelvi, he wrote 3 volumes to prove that the earth is flat. and every Barelvi Muslim, which includes all the Sufis, they have to swear by that. You ask anyone, sometimes, in open public, you ask earth is flat or round, and then you see
have to
a
say it.
response. No, they will try and evade. They'll try and evade. If you refer Ahmad Raza Barelvi's volumes, then they will probably shout at you and tell you that you are a sinner or something like that, and that you are committing blasphemy or whatever. But they will not give you a straight answer.
Yeah.
So that is the situation.
Yeah. So, talking about epistemology, Sanjay ji, how many types of praman are there according to our tradition?
We've got 6 pramanas, basically. And in the Abrahamic system, there is only one pramana, that is the Shabda pramana, that the authority of the scripture, the authority of the book, because they have just one book, and that is the final authority. That is how an Ahmad Raza Barelvi can write 3 volumes proving that the earth is flat, because Quran says that the earth is flat, so it has to be flat. How it is flat, then he goes on to prove it. Whatever your eyes tell you, whatever your senses tell you, whatever the scientific proofs tell you is of no
Doesn't
value
matter.
there. It doesn't matter. Earth is flat, so earth is flat. Similarly in Bible also. So that is the limitation of the Shabda Pramana. Whereas in Indian system, Shabda Pramana is the 6th Pramana. We've got 6 Pramanas. The first one of which is common to all schools. We have got 6 what is called orthodox schools, which honor the Vedas, and 3 heterodox schools which do not honor the Vedas. In all 9 of them, the first praman, that is direct evidence or pratyaksha praman, is common. And in the first 6, the Shabda praman is also common. Whereas in the other 3, the Shabda praman, as regards Veda, does not exist. but they honor some of the other pramanas. So other pramanas are this: you have the Pratyaksha Praman, then Anuman, then what is called Upaman, then Artha Prapti, then you have what is called Anupalabdhi and Shabda Praman. So these are the 6. Anuman is inference, and Upaman is analogy,
Analogy.
and Artha Prapti is deduction, and Anupalabdhi is non-existence. All the 6 pramanas are admissible only in the first 2, the Vedas and Vedantas. All the other 4, they accept some of them, like in the yoga system. Patanjali says that Pratyakshanuman Agama iti pramanani. Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Agam, that is Shabda Praman. These are the pramanas. Then in Nyaya and in Vaisheshik, again, these 3 are there. Nyaya, they also use Upaman like this. But Pratyaksha Praman is the highest Praman, it is number 1. And Shabda Praman is the 6th Praman. And it is also very clear when, see, there are so many pronouncements on that. I'll tell you one from the Mahabharata. It says that Pratyaksham hi etayor moolam. Pratyaksham hi etayor moolam. Etayor means these 2. Pratyaksham hi etayor moolam. Kritante etehyor api. Kritant means Anuman, and etehya means Agam or Shabda Praman. So Pratyaksha is the mool or the root of these 2. And Pratyakshena Agamo Vinna, that Pratyaksha or Agam, if these 2 are bin, Pratyakshene Agamo Vinna, Kritante va na kinchana. That Agam and Kritant, that is Anuman, inference, cannot be in opposition to the Pratyaksha. That is, if there is any contradiction, then Pratyaksha will prevail. The direct evidence shall prevail. This is the basis. Adi Shankara has also said that Jnanam na Purusha Tantram, kintu Vastu Tantram. Vastu means objective. Even in Patanjali Sutra, there is a reference that Shabda Jnananupati Vastu Shunyo Vikalpaha. Vikalpa in our scriptures and our traditions. So Vikalp means more than one duality, and that is delusion or confusion, because there is an underlying unity. So anything that goes against that unity is a Vikalp, so that is a delusion. So if Shabda Jnanan, the Shabda Jnan, whatever is the knowledge that is given by the scriptures, is devoid of objectivity, Vastu Shunyo, then it is Vikalpa, it is delusion. So on that, our tradition, even our scriptures are absolutely clear that you have to get that direct evidence. So that direct evidence in the material world, it is empirical evidence, and in the spiritual world, it is the experiential evidence. So by just reading of the Vedas, you do not achieve liberation, or you do not come one-to-one with the ultimate. That you have to have the Pratyaksha Pramana of experience only. And it is that experience. So that is why Guru is that important, because the Guru in our tradition is that highest liberated, realized being that can actually lead someone to that experience. That is the person that is Guru. Of course, we use that term Guru very loosely these days, but otherwise there is a full gradation from Adhyapak to Shikshak. Shikshak, Adhyapak, then you have Upadhyay, then Acharya, then Guru. So that gradation is there. So the guru is someone who can lead you to that experience. And how many are there these days? I think there are very few realized people who can actually lead another person to that state of experience. That is how the Pramana system works, and that is how you can see through our shastras everywhere that direct evidence, wherever you bring in direct evidence, it contradicts the other evidence. And that is how Adi Shankara was able to prevail over everybody else, because he privileged direct evidence over all other evidences.
So would you say that, are you suggesting that Pratyaksha Pramana is something more than the empirical evidence? Not just, it is also empirical evidence, but it is more than that.
Yes, in the spiritual realm, it is the experiential evidence. Because empirical evidence is something that you can show to others also. But experience is something that you alone can get. And the proof for that experience is that you lead another person to that experience, which was very common in the ancient era, when the gurus could take their shishyas to that experience, and then they could compare each other's experience and thereby establish that experience. But today, there are so many fake claims. It is difficult, not impossible. There are still a lot of people, and there are a lot of seekers. That is why people say that, okay, ultimately it is a seeking system. You have to seek. You have to seek to be able to experience that. If you want to get to that highest experience of ecstatic oneness, you have to find a guide, find a mentor who can take you there.
Would you say that binary logic is also useful at some stages in life or in daily life, but it is not, it cannot be the ultimate tool of knowing the reality?
See, at a very basic level, binary logic is useful. The binary logic can be useful at a very basic level. And you can say that you want to go and watch Bobby, and you say that, okay, Bobby is running in this theater. That is a binary logic. There is no third opinion about it. There is no maybe. If Bobby is running in X theater, it is running in X theater. So at that level, at that very basic level of existence, the binary logic is fine. Because there, if you start using Syadvad or the seven-valued logic, that's why I said that it is in extreme. So if you start using the seven-valued logic to that kind of a thing, then you will end up completely confused.
In Western science, what is happening now, in the past century, what has happened is that they are destroying the basis of empirical evidence one by one. Now, cognitive psychology is again and again throwing up evidence that you cannot be sure about what your eyes see, you cannot be sure about what you hear, you cannot be sure about what your mind perceives, because everything creates a narrative, and they have experiments. So now they have very big empirical evidence, which proves that one after another they have destroyed the entire basis of gathering empirical evidence, that you cannot be sure about what you see or what your mind perceives. So does it indicate that they are also realizing the limits of their own methods or limits of deductive science, deductive logic, as far as that?
The limits of deductive logic have been clear for over a century now. We know that. And they were clear to other people also, but then people did not go and challenge the Newtonian basis of that particular logic. And if psychology, I think psychology is not really a science, first of all, because there's very little that they can prove through experiments. And we also know that they have deliberately ignored the superconscious levels that exist in the Indian psychology. In fact, I remember Dalai Lama say that he stated that Western psychology compared to Indian psychology is kindergarten level. So it is indeed kindergarten level, because you might have known about how out of the 4 psychic levels, the para level doesn't exist there.
Yeah.
So we have this Vakari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, and para. So they have only 3 levels. The fourth level does not exist, though they knew it. They knew it, but then everything that happened, in fact, right till Einstein, everything that happened in the Western science, they used to take clearance from the church. And it was not in the interest of church to permit that. So even in psychology, the church did not permit that. So maybe some of them are now coming out of that. It was only after Darwin that the foundation of the church was so badly shaken. And after all, what is happening? They are recognizing, sorry, it is only in 1992 that the church recognized that the earth goes around the sun.
Yeah. And they still need confirmation of the church for calling someone a saint. They need some authority to tell them whether he or she is a saint or not. It seems very ridiculous to a Hindu.
That's oh, anyway, if we start discussing church, it may take up a few hours. So I think we can finish this discourse on this point.
Yes. Thank you, Sanjay ji. This was very enlightening. And if you like this episode, then please like and share this video. In the third episode, we'll discuss and conclude this series on Dharma versus religion. Thank you.
Thank you.